Hi, everyone.
Oh, there you go. That must mean that Christy's here. Here she is.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Christy. Good to see
Hi.
you.
Good to see
Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
you. I get all my extraneous stuff turned off.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi,
Hey, Jessica. Hi.
Taylor.
Hello.
Awesome, awesome. We will give everyone just a few minutes to trickle in.
So, Christy, where are you at now?
I am in Newfoundland.
All right. How do you like it so far?
Well, I've been here for about 4 hours and I like it so far. I'm just really tired from the terrible sleep on the ferry.
Oh, so you did have to take a ferry.
Oh yeah, it was a 7 hour ferry.
Did it get you over there with your vehicle or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. This one is 17. There's only or 7 hours. There's only a couple that there's three ferries onto the island, or you
Mm-hmm.
fly. And so
Mm-hmm.
the one I'm taking back is on the other side of the island, and it is a 16-hour ferry. So I'm on a
Mm-hmm.
wait list for a room.
There you go. Well, it's good that you made it there in time.
Yes. Yes, it's a beautiful day here. All right. I got some AI note takers,
Mm-hmm.
which are always doomed to outnumber participants. Jessica, are you in the Salt Lake City area as well?
Yeah, I am.
American
I'm
Fork, is that
technically
what it's called?
that's where Tracy is. Yeah, I'm a
Okay.
little bit more north of her. Technically in Wyoming, just over the border.
Oh,
Mm.
Utah,
beautiful.
Wyoming border. Yeah.
Awesome.
How do you like Wyoming?
Yeah, it's great. There's only two escalators in the whole state of Wyoming. So,
Wow, fun fact. Okay.
yeah. Yep. Small town living.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You guys get a lot of snow in the wintertime, right?
Yep. But our summers are perfect, like
Mm-hmm.
75 all summer. It's just gorgeous. So
Ah, so it doesn't
trade
get
off.
too hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start this. Oh, okay. New AI companion stuff. Every time I join, there's something new. Um, I'll turn on the transcript for anybody who needs it as well. All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Uh, Looking forward to today's conversation. I know, as always, we had people sign up who will have to watch it afterwards. So hello to them and thanks for catching up with us on the other side. But it's always a great discussion for those who can be here live. So thanks so much. And we've got some new participants. For anybody that's just joining us for the first time and you feel okay about introducing yourself, jump in. So we have Terry, I'm sorry, Eeyore, Anna, Zoya, Jessica will introduce in just a second. Hey Vlad, good to see you. Christelle, good to see you. So for any of our new participants, so good to see you. We'd love to hear how you got here and who you are and who you're with.
I guess I'll start if everybody else is quiet. My name is Terry Ivanov. I spent a lot of years in logistics, as a dispatch operations and done all sorts of different things in logistics. Well, now 5 years already. I've been in, continue being in logistics, but on the other side of the fence, I'm in technology now, software development, transportation management systems, so on and so forth. I've used to work with Stan years ago for many years along the side, and we're both from Ukraine, and we both share the logistics part of things. And I just saw the saw the invite and came across of it, and I figured I'll join. And I'm interested in learning what you guys are talking about, if I can be of any help, maybe somewhere sometime, and just curious to know what's going on.
Perfect. Where are you located, Terry?
I'm in Chicago.
Chicago also. Oh, okay. All right. So
West
good
suburbs. Yeah,
representation.
west suburbs.
All right. Chicago is well represented today then. All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in that's new today?
Hello everyone, my name is Igor Tereshchenko. I am a member of Agile Ukraine team. I'm located in Kyiv and really glad that I was invited here. So really nice to see you all, and hopefully we'll have a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Hello, my name is Zoya. I'm logistics director at the company GDI Integrations. I'm in Kyiv at the moment. So nice to see you all and to join this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. All right. Anna or Christelle?
Hi, my name is Ana Fremato. I'm based in Brazil. I represent a fund called Inovatus that maybe you guys know have been involved in a dispute with the Olympics terminal in Odessa. We are working together with another fund to basically take control of the port. So we're getting to know more about the logistics scenario in Ukraine at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you for
But I'm
being
in
here.
the finance side, and I'm based in Brazil on top of everything else to complicate things further.
Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you.
Hey, so my turn.
Yes.
So I'm Krista. You know me well, obviously, ex-Maersk. I now have my own consultancy business, and we're working on a Ukraine reconstruction working group, which is why I was interested in participating today, just to get a feel of where we stand. Basically, the intention is really trying to link the diplomacy and logistics and how they must operate as one, and integrating more field intelligence, operational agility, and some advocacy, obviously, through the many contacts that we have. But what we are trying to do is really bridge the gap between the policies and the operational delivery. So hopefully, I can be of some assistance to some of you, and I will learn a lot, I'm sure, from all of you today. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Christelle, do you want to real quick give them a quick overview of your many years and responsibilities at Maersk and how that ties to all of this as well?
Sure, of course. So Maersk, when I was leading the aid and relief division, when the conflict started, we were the very first ones to be in the country. We never were shy on getting into the country, as opposed to a number of other operators, which really stayed in Poland. We decided to really work with the local people and making sure that our containers were also a source of a means to continue the economy going even despite the conflict. So worked a lot with USAID at the time for the agricultural segment. We created a whole network to enable the farmers to continue to ship and export their product. Yes, it was still a little bit more expensive than what they were used to with the bulk, obviously. But what we were able to do was really a cost at zero for Maersk, and making sure that they were still able to maintain their crops and being able to sell to Europe mostly. So we created a new rail network and lines, and also we're able to help out government to government to get more exports from the farmer product into Africa as well, where it was very much needed. So it was really interesting. There was a lot of back and forth with that, and we worked with a number of foundations dedicated to Ukraine, like Ukraine Resistance Foundation, working with ambulances and fire trucks being sent from the US into Ukraine, but far close to the front, where it was in dire needs actually. And there was also a lot of the work that we've done was mostly with hospitals in terms of medications, letting reefer containers to make sure that, you know, everything was protected in case of destruction or, you know, that kind of thing. So we had a number of projects in Ukraine, and we also worked with drone companies to protect their ramps and spare parts and all that. So worked a lot with warehousing and distribution in that aspect of things. So it was really, really a lot of good work. And even though I'm no longer Maersk, I made a lot of good friends there, and I intend to continue doing the good work with them. So thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, no doubt. No doubt you will continue doing the good work as well. Well, thank you so much, Vlad. Are you where you can talk for just a second? Maybe not.
Sorry. Yes, I can. I
Oh,
couldn't
hi.
find the mute. Yes. Yeah, I'm
Hi, it's
actually
good to hear
driving
you.
and listening to you guys.
You
Yeah,
want
it's
to
nice to
introduce
see
your business while you're here?
there's a lot of new faces. I haven't been around for a while. I've been doing a lot of traveling, and we're doing a lot of things as far as working on my business. And you know, we did some volunteer work with Vector. You know, back when the work got started, we did actually a lot of work.
Mhm.
And it was nice that they actually, you know, speared a lot of the work that was done. And we moved over 11 sea containers uh, with a bunch of, you know, donated goods, with medical, uh, with a bunch of medical supplies and medical equipment, and just overall a bunch of things that we sent over there. So it was a good thing we did. But now I have some time to kind of plug myself back into it and catch up on everything.
Okay, awesome. And so you want to tell everybody about your trucking company for anybody who might need trucking services?
Sure, yeah. So we're basically located in Florida, in south of Tampa. We are a transportation company as far as we do trucking. We have about 43 company trucks and have about 100 owner operators. And we have a warehouse. We just built our new terminal and our new headquarters in Florida. So we have a warehouse here. And we also have bonded space. If anybody needs any cargo that needs to get held in bond, we can do it as well.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks. I'm so glad to see your face. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, as we mentioned in the emails leading up to this, you know, every day, as we know, presents a new challenge and a new headline. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about, especially with Vector now having an official office in Ukraine, many of you have been doing the work in Ukraine over the last few years. Obviously, this year set off some new potential talks for peace. Again, day by day, we just don't know what's going to happen. But we also wanted to start, there are investments being made. There are people in pre-construction phase. There are, World Bank is making an effort to help rebuild infrastructure, all of that. So we wanted to also start talking about some of those things as well. And of course, the first thing that we wanted to talk about, and I'll let Stan take the lead on this. And for those of you who don't know, Stan, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit as well. And so in case you have any questions about our official office and operation in Ukraine, then you can also reach out to Stan about that as well. But Stan, if you want to talk a little bit about that and then about the Ukraine Reconstruction Fund and just where things stand today as we know it at this time, and then we'll see how things may change.
Thanks, Christine. Hi again, everybody. And I'll do my best to do as little talking as I possibly can and then kind of open the floor so we can bounce some ideas. In a nutshell, my name is Stan, joined Vector last year in November, if I memory serves me well, spent quite a few years in logistics prior to that in US trucking. One of the reasons I joined Vector is so we can extend to Ukraine, because I knew Enrique and Brian for quite a few years. And most of you here on the call, you probably have a good idea of what Vector does and how Vector does it and the values of the company. And therefore, we saw it would be a good move to extend that to Europe, to Ukraine. As you know, Vector has been supportive of Ukraine since 2022. And originally, when leveraging logistics for Ukraine initiative started, and Christy, thanks again for leading the way all this time, was kind of to figure out and provide the necessary support right where it was needed from the get-go. But now as the conflict, if you will, stabilized to some extent, right, and there are talks of this rebuilding to start sometime soon. As we all know, all the wars over at some point. So we kind of started to working on opening an actual office there with the people we know who are the members of the Team Vector. So we have the full transparency, so we have the full understanding of the situation. Because as you know, we work in the region with partners with whom we worked for years now, and that is great. But if you talk about things like rebuilding the war-torn country, and especially a lot of people have reservations and trust sometimes is an issue. Therefore, we decided to build a team over there on whom we can 100% trust and rely, and who will give us the pure picture of how they see things being right there in Ukraine. So that's it in a nutshell. What we currently have is a team of 5 people. We currently provide the inland transportation services, so truck operations in and out of Ukraine, in European Union generally, and we working on conducting the ocean shipments ourselves. So the port of Odessa, for example, is something that we're starting working more and more closely. Speaking of fun facts, one of our containers was there when 2 missiles hit the port. No severe damages, but I mean, of course, when you know that people died, the port workers, nothing stands in comparison to that. But nevertheless, so we, like later today, I'll be having a phone call with the steamship line discussing the war risk insurances, because some steamship lines just doesn't provide that type of insurance at all. However, some do. At the same time, talking to some underwriters here in the US who are willing to underwrite such risks. So let's say we have clients who would like to ship to Ukraine directly to Odessa or Chornomorsk, but they are concerned, well, what if their cargo gets there and will get destroyed? So we're working on solutions that will at least potentially can compensate them with that, because there are benefits of sending freight directly to Ukraine instead of sending it to Poland, for example. Not to get too deeply into the weeds, that's sort of where we at office-wise right now in the services we're providing. To the second portion of your question / comment, Christy, is the reconstruction fund. And I'm happy to see new faces, and I feel like we have people who are better equipped to talk on the subject than I am. Therefore, I'll kind of open the floor, if you will, and please chip in and we can bounce ideas back and forth. Based on what I read, the draft of the fund structure, if you will, has been created, where it's been described how Ukraine will fund it based on the derivatives from the rare earth, from other manufacturing that is to be built and developed in Ukraine. And then on the other side, the United States will contribute to that fund by cash, by financial instruments, by expertise, by consulting, and by some tangible assets, which to me signals that there will be some significant import to Ukraine in future months, future years, probably from the United States. And this is sort of a guesstimate on my behalf currently, but that is my understanding. If the United States sees the opportunity and a strategy to kind of step inside of Ukraine and start developing the production, the sourcing of the rare earth or whatever they're called. I don't remember. I remember lithium is one of the minerals. Then the United States will likely have vast interest in taking whatever is manufactured in the US and ship it to Ukraine to boost production here in the US. Again, I'm just thinking out loud. And because that is in line with the ideas of current administration here in the States. But then being Ukrainian as well, born and raised there, I kind of see it on the bright side for Ukraine, because all this equipment will go there, and probably consulting on behalf of the United States will help to boost the systems and processes and in Ukraine, which will therefore improve the overall, production, and new jobs will be created. And as all of this happening, I hope, and that's what the United States are talking about, this will also provide more secured peace in future, if you will, because US will have larger presence and probably more of a United States workers, and therefore there will be a good reasoning for US maybe military or something to be present in Ukraine, which will serve as a repellent, at least to some extent, for Russia to become more aggressive after some sort of peace will start. So that's, I tried to say fewer things, but that's kind of what had been on my mind lately. And if any one of you has any information to dismiss what I have said or add on top of it, or if you have any interest into it, please see it as an open floor and share what you have to say, ask, or comment.
So thank you very much. I think you're spot on a number of things. I do believe that there are a few things that are going to happen, depending on it doesn't. We all want the end, even though we're not really clear when that's going to happen or if that's going to happen. But I think what's clear, however, is that there is a very strong dynamic on how we support local Ukrainian voices by connecting them to the right people here in America. And that's what we're trying to do with advocacy and all that. It's about creating the right economic pathways as well, like you mentioned, there might be different segment that will get involved. I'm currently working with a company that does recycled cement in Ukraine, and they are looking for buyers in the US. They found one in Delaware, to the point that if it becomes really big, we're going to have to also have authorization with the local ports in Delaware to make it more break bulk and in bigger quantities as opposed to just samples of it. So there are, you know, different pathways that we're looking on products. I was talking about agriculture earlier. FDA is working on that on a number of products that are being manufactured in Ukraine out of honey and applesauce, or, you know, all sorts of things, but also and I'm sure if there are plenty of Ukrainians here today, there's also fantastic vegan products that are also being manufactured. They just haven't found the right corridors to reach the bigger distribution centers. Right now, it's mostly within the Ukrainian communities supporting one another. So I think the work that needs to be done is to be amplifiers, right? It's multipliers. That's what we're trying to do, not to take any things away from anyone, but just trying to increase the voice of those ones. And the last point, in my view, coming from this background, is professionalizing the reconstruction logistics. And by that, I mean, obviously you're in logistics, Igor, and you probably understand what I mean by that, but it's very important to a lot of the people or a lot of the actors on the ground, they don't really know how to buy. They don't really know how to handle it. Where do I start? What do I need? How do I really get visible also on that part? But how do I also reduce waste of aid, right? Because there's a lot of that. And we all come from the NGO side at some point or another, or worked with them. USAID created a form of laziness on a number of aspects. And the dismantling, however brutal it was, is also a blessing in disguise in so many ways, because now people have to really reconsider the way they are going to use aid and how the funding is going to be used. Make sure that there is a smarter planning around it. And I think we're going to see that the foundations here in the US are going to continue giving to Ukraine. I'm very convinced of that. There's a few that I'm talking to that I know do have projects, but they're also going to be very specific. They're not going to be, we're giving you money and then you guys figure it out. No, it's going to be project driven. This is going to be very specific. It could be rebuilding schools, it could be hospital, healthcare driven, it could be many different things. But I think we need to pay attention to that and be very clear that niche are going to get the attention, niches. And what I mean is people like to mirror their own journey. So if you're in the healthcare, you have to really get closer to foundation that will give grants and all that. I try to post as many as I can on LinkedIn when I come across them, so I will continue doing that. But if there is a need for a bigger voice, I think that's what this group, if anything, needs to amplify that. I hope I made that clear. Maybe I'm too holistic, because we can't give too many things that are still confidential levels. But I think having the services and the logistic capacity is one thing. It's important to understand how do you do the entry, right? On both sides, actually.
Thank you very much, Christelle. And it's excellent because we were discussing this internally with Christy. So what's the chapter number 2 for leveraging logistics for Ukraine? Because chapter number 1 was to address the immediate need. Who needs what humanitarian aid-wise and how to get it there. And that has been done. And now we are hopefully soon in the reconstruction phase. And this is excellent because you kind of have to start 30K view first. and then sort of zoom in, and maybe towards the end of a conversation we can do something we haven't, or maybe we did before, like create some sort of a list of action items, if you will. So next time we speak, we can actually people may choose something they would like to work on and then report back on the results, because I've been also taking notes as you were talking, and there are so many things. We're not going to hold everybody hostage here for a discussion, but no, I'm with you. I'm with you absolutely. I'll reach out separately as well, so we
Of
can
course,
talk maybe some
anytime.
more and talk. Okay, but thank you very much for sharing that. Maybe
pleasure.
there is anybody else who'd like to share something additionally, maybe something that you have heard. And maybe not. Something that popped in my head, I'll add really quickly. As a Vector Ukraine, we have joined American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine. We have not become very active, but we started attending some meetings this week and on. And Christelle, exactly for the purpose to connect with different people, to understand, to collect those pieces of puzzle, if you will, so you can kind of make the proper connections down the line. And question to you, Crystal. Have you heard of Ukrainian Food Alliance by chance?
Absolutely. Yes. This is what I was referring to with the FDA. There's a number of products with this new alliance that's been put together to promote Ukrainian products. Yeah, I'm very familiar with it. Absolutely. And those are the channels
Super.
where they need amplifiers.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And the reason I ask, we worked with them some. I know they do have some presence here in Canada and in Germany, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
but no. Okay.
All right. Anybody else?
Yep. I was just going to add another thing as well that may not sound that important at the moment. I think economy, dignified pathways for economy, small business owners is going to be very important, but don't forget the climate aspect of things. So anything that has to do with sustainability will become important as well in Ukraine. And the more we're going to have America, Trump has his own agenda, and, obviously there is, those kind of mixed signal, I would say, with the mineral, like you mentioned, Igor, and all these things. But at the end of the day, there's a real challenge for Ukraine on that will also become a big item on their agenda discussions. So that's something to look into it and work on more advocacy. So anything where you're going to see more product linked to that, and by product I mean goods and services. The Ukrainian government, before I left Maersk, at the end of last year, I had to I wrote a piece of paper for the government of Ukraine about green logistics and how this was important as well. So now I can share that now that I'm no longer Maersk. I have free speech, right? So, and green logistics is going to be very important in the way the infrastructures are going to be built, the way we're going to look and consider using more rail, rebuilding some of the corridors that need more attention. And that is something we should not underestimate.
Yeah, good point.
Thank you.
I have a question, maybe Stan, maybe do you know anything regarding as far as what is Ukraine government planning to do with all the veterans that are going to be coming back from the war? Is there any kind of a plan to engage them in the rebuilding process? Have you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't heard it. It's on our internal agenda. As we grow, if we can engage more people who are trying to,
Because the thing is, I mean,
Mhm.
you're Ukrainian and I'm Ukrainian, and you know the culture just like I know the culture, and I just know when all those guys are going to come back from the war, there's a lot of things that are broken in the government and broken in around the actual kind of support post-war for these guys, and some of them will be very, very unhappy and very upset. And I'm going to go on a limb here and I'm going to say something, so please don't judge me. I mean, but I'm going to say I wouldn't be surprised if they some of them come in and there's going to be, a lot of maybe suicidal, people too, because they went through a really harsh environment. And then when they come back to a government that has no infrastructure for their psychological help, for everything, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them goes into the Duma and throws a couple of grenades in there, And I'm just being realistic, I'm just trying to see if you've heard anything from the government side that they're at least planning or at least working on anything to build a support net for these guys, maybe engage them in in the rebuilding process, engage them in the work, and so that way they could be, so they would feel that they're not only the ones who were spilling their blood on the ground, but they're actually now trying to rebuild something, and they're being busy doing positive things and rebuilding the country, because I have a feeling that's going to be the biggest challenge. That's just my opinion.
Igor,
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
I can answer some of it if you don't mind. So Vladimir, I think you're absolutely correct. It's always the collateral damage, whether it's during or after a conflict, right? There are a number of NGOs already on the ground that work on what we call the mental health for that. So a lot of work is being done, but you are absolutely right. This is not part of, it's not a structured frame. It's more of a, it's more of an NGO type of thing. So there's a lot of centers that have been deployed. One of them is Project Hope. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They do fantastic work in conflict zones, but particularly in Ukraine, they have been deployed from day one, and they continue doing the work. Most of their funds continue to be allocated to mental health with veterans, but also with the youth. I think that's also what we need to look at, right? It's the next generation. There is the ones that have been on the ground, but there are also people that have been traumatized on so many different levels. One of the work we're trying to do as well is working on what we call early recovery playbooks. So by that, it means that you work on corridor access, debris removals, modular housing, because you're going to need those eventually, and youth mobilization. I think what's important is to have the young people to also be part of the reconstruction. And you're right, this needs to be advocated at higher levels, at government level. Is this one of their concerns right now? Probably not, but that's also why you have groups like this one, or the one that I'm working on with other humanitarians on the reconstruction, and it doesn't have to wait until the conflict ends. It can start now.
Yeah, because the reason why I'm bringing this up, because if we can learn anything from history, is I love history because that's what actually tells us the future. And then when you're looking at history, when you have, for example, when during Soviet Union times, when you had the Afghanistan war, a lot of those guys came back from the Afghani war. The Soviet Union fell apart. There was no safety net. Economy collapsed. So a lot of those guys came back from the military, and they had no jobs to go to. They had nowhere to plug themselves into. When they had nowhere to plug themselves into something positive, they turned to crime. And then because they're like, well, the government doesn't care. Nobody cares. So I'm just going to join a gang and organize, group of, I got the military skills. I know how to take care of things. And, if nobody wants to help me, then I'm going to go help myself. I mean, I'm just kind of speaking, what the thoughts are, just, knowing if we look at history, that's how usually it happens. So that's why I think it's important kind of to, maybe if you guys have any connections and you were to kind of bring us to the attention of the government.
We can totally do that work in advocacy work. I'll speak to Project Hope and see I know they have dedicated their work mostly with single parent families, that didn't have family with them, or kids that were traumatized by the hearing of the bombing, all these kind of things. But I'll speak to them and see what they have to say on that one. It's a strategic dialogue that we can certainly bring to more attention. Let's put it this way.
And I suggested as a first action item to make it more constructive for the conversation. For the next one, we can all share, because we all agree that this is something very important, right? And each of one will hopefully find some time to do some work, like Crystal, you just suggested. And next time we speak, we can share what has been done, what didn't work, what maybe did work. Because Vlad, it is a huge problem, very complex problem. And yet, what's that saying? Never underestimate a small group of motivated individuals that they can change the world, because as a matter of fact, that's the only people who ever do. I butchered it, but you got the point. So each of us can try and do something, and little by little, a year from now, you look back and a change can take place. So in the end, I guess we'll shoot some sort of a summary, and this will be one of them, that how we can help people to integrate back after the war. And like I mentioned earlier, we were having discussion internally how we can hire people into our own organization, but we currently have 5. But at least we started the talk.
No, but if you think about it, it's also it's not that difficult to also incentivize on that aspect of things. I mean, look at what is happening in America. It's not even better with Vietnam veterans and all that. I mean, and they're not necessarily so well treated either, but there are programs in place to ensure their reinsertion into society. The government of Ukraine potentially could do that, but I think the government has other things in mind right now that is not necessarily the priority. However, the private sector can be your best ally, and the more you amplify that voice from an economic standpoint, but also from a human resources standpoint, workforce, and say, hey, these are the type of credit you can get if you get veterans into it. It might actually be workable, but somebody needs to be the advocate for that. Most of the NGOs already do that work, maybe not to the level of very specifically the veterans, but I know they do it particularly with the young people. So something to consider. Yeah.
100% agree with you. And just to add, to make it sound more realistic, even like from personal experience, at the previous job, we had a trucking company, right? Worked at a trucking company. And through the years, we built an office in Ukraine where pretty much every function of the company had been extended overseas, right? Which allowed us to operate 24/7, 365, because holidays are different, hours are different. It was excellent. So the things like standardized operations, procedures, continuous improvement, all that can be taught. And if the person can do it overseas, so the person can be in it, and even if someone doesn't have legs or arms, like we understand, we have a good expertise in analyzing the process, standardizing it, and training other folks. So there you go. We have an idea right there. If we just have somebody who can, okay, so I don't think out loud too much. I'll put it in writing, but I feel like we're getting somewhere already. This is excellent. Thanks, Vlad.
Yeah. Awesome. Anybody else have anything on any of those topics before we move on to the next?
I guess I'll just add my 5 cents here
Yeah,
to
please.
said that it is absolutely the case, because working with if the tech company, same thing, having an office there. These cases are just all across the industry now. Guys that are coming back. I haven't had worked with anyone personally yet, but I've heard of many companies hiring guys that I went out and they served for a year or two and they came back and company that they worked for previously either rehired them or recommended to the other company to go to work for and bring them back into the normal, stable, monthly salary type of, continuous life where they can feel themselves appreciated and understand why they're here for, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's I don't have a whole lot of experience with that, but I've heard a few cases and a few other companies doing that. So I think it's absolutely well understood on the private sector level, and people totally see that and understand that. It just comes down to a point of, who really can do how much and what sort of job they can offer, and then it will come down to that. But yeah, as long as we talk about it and bring it to people's attention, I believe that's all that matters sometimes, really.
Thank you. All right, awesome. Thank you all. Yeah, Stan and I have even been talking behind the scenes of we had within the first month of opening our office, one of our team members was called to serve. And so we've had that. So then I kind of went down my own little Google rabbit hole of women entering the workforce while men are out fighting, and the job skills training, especially in the logistics industry that's taken place there to keep the country up and running. And so, yeah, lots of consequences and affectations for sure, and lots of work to be done, which is why we're all still here and showing up. So thank you for all being here. All right. Well, I am so delighted to have Jessica Arch of Lifting Hands International. Tracy has been here with us before. We've shipped with Tracy aid. I had the pleasure of visiting the warehouse that sits behind her that at one moment I thought, oh, that almost looks like a little visual screen in the background. You even have kind of workers going back and forth. But there are actually little worker bees back there doing their thing. So Lifting Hands International does a lot of really incredible work. And so I'm delighted to meet Jessica here virtually and have all of us hear more about them from her perspective, and of course the Ukraine thing, but we want to hear a little bit about them for those of you who are not familiar with just their work in general. They do incredible work all over the world. So Jessica, thanks so much for being here. We are delighted. And thanks for being here and joining us from Wyoming, which we learned from Jessica, for those who came in late to the call, has 2 escalators in the entire state. That was our fun fact before joining. But thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Yes, for sure. Well, every time I learn more and more about you all, I become bigger fans. So we'll clue everyone else in as well. So tell us all a little bit, just let's start a big, broad picture. So tell us all a little bit about Lifting Hands International and your overall mission, and then kind of boil down how you became involved in Ukraine.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna get my screen share here set up so I'm not distracted as we go on. Yeah, so we're Lifting Hands International. We've got Tracy here as part of this group, and then also Ihor is our Ukraine country director. So they'll, I'm sure, be chiming in at some point during the presentation as well. So yeah, we are, our mission statement is simple. We provide aid to refugees at home and abroad, simply humanitarian. Another way of putting that is we're a global humanitarian organization dedicated to supporting people affected by war and disaster. And so our goal really is to help people first survive, then heal, then rebuild, both during a crisis and then long after as well. We have programs all over the world. We got our start at the height of the Syrian refugee crisis in 2016. Our founder, Haley Smith, speaks Arabic, and she went there to volunteer in one of the refugee camps and had this light bulb moment. We were talking earlier about how sometimes aid is not really effective or what's actually needed and wanted, and that's what she saw there. And realized there had to be a better way to provide aid. And so she went home and put together her first shipment of aid of things that were clearly, on a clearly identified need list, high quality new items, put the call out and within 2 months had a container to ship. And we've kept going from there. We've sent about 116 containers total in the past 9 years. 21 of those now to Ukraine, with another 6 to the region. So when the invasion happened in Ukraine, we knew we wanted to be there to help. We're a small to medium size organization. And so we really look at taking a listen first approach so that we can fill in gaps left by the big aid organizations. So that those first couple months we spent evacuating people, purchasing solar panels, supporting shelters with food and hygiene items, and then really trying to build a network across the country. And so now we have teams with big hearts in all different regions. We've got presence in Lviv to Kharkiv to Kherson to the Donetsk region on the Eastern Front, and are doing what we can throughout the country to help people survive, heal, and rebuild.
Amazing. Thank you. It has been certainly a labor of love, and your team has been working around the clock to listen first and then help. And you've done an incredible work about in the last few years. So you mentioned kind of the first approach was listening, evacuating, finding the supplies that needed to get there and getting them there. Obviously, all of our work has evolved a lot in the last 3 years. For LHI specifically, what are you working on right now, and how have you seen, what are some of the large phases of aid that you've seen?
Yeah, so I've got some pictures to show for this section because it's always helpful, right, to have some visuals to go along. So, like I said, the first pillar of what we try and do is help people survive through aid delivery. A part of that is shipping from the States, and then also procuring aid locally. So, here's one of our food boxes we've done with that delicious Ukrainian bread. We're working a lot in frontline areas in the Donetsk region, helping a lot of elderly people who are still, in their villages, people with disabilities. This is one of our homemade teddy bears that was sent from Utah. Here's more of our teams on the ground. We have wonderful volunteers who make homemade quilts and blankets. So this is another one that we've shipped in. More faces. This is a story of 2 friends, 84 Raisa and 87-year-old Tatiana. About a year ago, they both suffered strokes on the same day due to the stress of the shellings and bombings. Over the winter, we visited them in their village, brought food, coal for heat, medication, a wheelchair walker rollers for their walker, adult hygiene supplies, and that care and aid and supplies that they desperately needed. There used to be so many other aid organizations showing up in these frontline villages, and it's really we're in many of these, we're really the only one that's still showing up and going there, which has been sad to witness, but also just really underscores the huge need that people have.
Yeah.
We also have a shelter in Lviv. This is a picture there. This is 87-year-old Raisa and her daughter. Raisa survived World War II. Which, interesting parallel, right? She never thought she'd have to live through a war again like this a second time. So our shelter houses women and children like her in Lviv for people who are still continuing to flee, right? And needing a place to stay. Our next pillar is heal. We've talked a lot about this in the meeting today. So we have a program supporting frontline hospitals. If you think about, many of these were small rural community hospitals that were treating flu and asthma and now have become major trauma surgical centers simply by their location. And so we have helped provide medical aid and equipment, laparoscopic equipment, blood transfusion equipment, things like that, so that they're better able to treat people more effectively and save lives and reduce recovery times. It's daunting, right, what these hospitals have to do, perform major trauma surgery without access to stable power. And that's why this equipment is so important. So here's a couple of pictures from that. We also have a physician that we bring with us on our frontline aid distributions. And, you know, it's so wonderful to partially physician, partial therapist, right? Just having someone to talk to about your aches and pains and what you're feeling. And he brings a whole boxes of medicine and is able to give consultations right there in these basement shelters, which is amazing. We talked a lot about mental health. That's a huge part of our work in Ukraine. We have a center in Lviv, a women's empowerment center, where we're helping women with grief counseling, mental well-being, parenting classes, and also some small business entrepreneurial training. So this is some pictures from here. We have 7 actually community centers across Ukraine, in Lviv, in Kherson, in Kharkiv Oblast. And we do a lot of group and art therapy through those centers, especially looking at kids. Here's a picture of one of our centers there. This is another story. So yeah, most of you probably know Kharkiv Oblast was occupied and then freed. So a lot of trauma experience there, right? Not only is there the schools that are in rubble, fields filled with landmines. This particular girl, she also lost her father to a Russian sniper. And so just immense grief, right? She was feeling overwhelmed and hopeless, unable to see a future for herself, really started to withdraw from other people, which only fueled her loneliness and sense of isolation. We coaxed her into coming to our teenage girls therapy group. She slowly began to open up, talk about her feelings. A lot of art therapy helped her reconnect with things that she loved. And gradually started to feel better, started smiling again, started communicating with the other girls, building friendships. And realizing that there was still hope and happiness to be found even after such a tragic loss. And like we were talking about earlier, the future generations, that's such important work that's happening in our community centers as well to really help kids, process what they're going through. We also do a lot of movement and exercise classes as well, because we know that helps people heal and process their trauma. Rebuilding is another big pillar. This is after the dam explosion in 2023, the before and after you can see there. We started a huge project in Kherson to pump out buildings, the sludge and the water out of 192 buildings and 2,000 homes, which was a massive project. Here's our big truck that went around for almost a year, pumping things out. This is Koloneskanova. She's one of the people whose home was flooded that we helped pump out water and help her repair. She had beautiful rose bushes and all of her furniture and electronics, all of it was ruined, but we were able to keep her in her home ultimately, which is great. We've also done a lot of renovating in our community centers, fixing plumbing, broken windows, building classrooms in these spaces so that we're able to have these centers that not only celebrate Ukrainian culture, but are, that place to come and build and connect with community, with support and resources as well. And finally, our last pillar of what we're doing in Ukraine is Unite. Helping the helpers, we believe, is one of the most important pieces of humanitarian work we can do. the people on the ground who not only have to process their own grief and trauma of what they're experiencing, but they're also trying to make a difference in their communities. And so we help our local teams overcome burnout. We share best practices, provide expertise. This is a picture from one of our conferences that we hold in the Carpathian Mountains to give our teams a break from the shelling and the bombings. We just finished our 4th conference last week. Ihor was there. Here's the picture of some of the art therapy that we've done with these sessions, and that's really so rejuvenating to our teams and helps them get back out there and kind of back in the trenches as they go on. Yeah, so that's a brief summary of what we're doing right now.
Yes, just a few things. It's amazing.
This is excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jessica, team, thank you so much, guys. And like Christy mentioned earlier, the more you learn, the more you grow respect and just sense of admiration. And I learned on a call with Ihor and I forgot the lady's name.
Anastasia.
Anastasia.
Yes.
That
Yes.
you guys, your team, the core team is like 25 people, if I remember correctly, worldwide. And it blew my mind how much 25 people can. It's incredible. Igor, you have a raised hand, no?
Yeah, if I may just maybe an additional minute. Thank you so much, Jessica, for this wonderful presentation. I don't think that I
Hello?
have really anything to add of big importance, but still maybe just a few more words about our frontline distribution. Since this is the direction of our work that tackles and involves a lot of logistics matters. We have a partnership organization in Kharkiv who we closely work with. We really put a lot of importance to high level of localization in terms of implementation of our projects. But nevertheless, they have a field team and 4 vans that they use for their operations. And what really differentiates them from a lot of other volunteers who work in the same region, in Donetsk, I mean, is that they've been really resourceful in terms of establishing cooperation with local authorities, national police. So whenever they are going to field missions, they always have access, almost always have access to frontline communities. So we're talking here about small settlements with 40, 60, sometimes 100 people out of thousands that used to live there. And those settlements are located at around 5, 4, 10, and up to 15 kilometers from front line. So we're trying to be as close as possible. And whenever I came to these missions by myself, and we always try to be at our partners and at our distributions as often as possible. So whenever I came there, I always witnessed local people saying that early child aid that they're receiving are the only aid that's still coming to the settlement, or almost only, like maybe 1 or 2 organizations sometime are able to go there. But now we need to be adaptive, and since the front line is moving really closely to Dnipro region, so Donetsk region in some places are unfortunately already occupied, and there's a big risk of intervention into Dnipro region. We're trying to be adaptive and trying to look for new locations. So as you all might know, there's a big offensive operation that is taking place on northern part of Ukraine, northeastern. So there's a big group of Russian forces that are trying to occupy Sumy. They are already around 20 kilometers from the city, so they've been able to use artillery, drone attacks, whatever they can. And also there's another group that's trying to reach Kharkiv. So the front line is not done yet. The front line is moving, the war is going on, and our teams also trying to adapt to this ever-evolving circumstances. So now we're evaluating needs and trying to establish connection with local authorities, both in Sumy and Kharkiv region, to try to provide the same quality of assistance in other regions where people also need this that much, especially considering this situation is deteriorating quite quickly there. So that's about our distribution team. I don't know, maybe it also was discussed at this with one previous meeting regarding our logistics, but shortly, Tracy is doing a fantastic job on providing a lot of high quality aid for people in Ukraine. So whenever there's another container assembled, we deliver it first to Poland, as we've been doing for last year, I believe is our last shipments. Then we reach out to our local partners who help us to deliver it from Poland to Ukraine, and there we deliver it to our Kharkiv warehouse, then to our field warehouses. We've got 3 of them all over the Donetsk region. So we already discussed a lot of this with Stan. I won't take any more of your time. Just wanted to provide some small details about how we do our distributions and our logistics. Thank you.
Amazing. Well,
Thank you.
and that touches on, while we have development and logistics and on the ground, we happen to have the 3 of you here. I would love to hear what are 1 or 2 of your big specific challenges right now in each of your 3 areas?
If I may continue a bit, I would say that our biggest, at least from my perspective, our biggest challenge now is access to resources, because as you all know, USAID had a stop order a few months ago, and a lot of organizations just not just stopped working here in Ukraine, they just ceased, and they are not anywhere around anymore. So we are now trying to find all the resources we can to cover our logistics costs, because delivering shipments to all the countries and to Ukraine is especially costly because of security situation, because a recent attack on Odessa port, we had to build this route through Europe, through Poland, which requires additional expenses. So I don't know, Jessica, Tracy, maybe there's some more challenge, but I believe this is one of our biggest challenges right now. We are actively looking for partners who could be interested in supporting our deliveries and supporting expenses for the deliveries.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's generally, we hit a high in fundraising in 2022 and 2023, and that momentum is declining just generally. And we definitely see that in our ability to ship and logistics to get aid into Ukraine. And there's a lot of competing priorities around the world, right? A lot of hotspots of high need. And so donors are kind of trying to do a little in a lot of places, or their resources are stretched thin. They're worried about the economy. So maybe they're being a little bit more conservative in their giving. And I think also another challenge is just the wear and tear of our local teams having to live through a war for 3 years, right? That burnout, that stress is just a lot for people to take on, and that's why things like our conference are so important to help people kind of keep up their resilience and their hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, what
Tracy?
about you?
Yeah, from my end, just what Jessica said, I have aid in my warehouse, but it's the cost of getting it there. We're running low on funding for that. I think it's usually like $8,000 to $10,000. So if we get a little more funding, then we can send more aid.
Okay. Awesome.
So I propose, thank you very much, everybody. I propose that'll be action item number 2, and I'd love to, we'll see how efficient I will be able to be, but Christelle mentioned something very useful, and I'll reach out to her after the call. I see that she left the call now. She had to join a different call, but there are different funding mechanisms that we not necessarily just know about. So I'll try to do some research in those regards and see, because my wife, she used to work here in Chicago in a nonprofit. And when she shared with me how much people actually donated, there are many, many, many companies we never heard of who really want to help. And usually their biggest thing is, but who can we trust? You see, so maybe this can be a good platform where we kind of put it together and hopefully find the people who really want to make a difference with their dollar, but they just need to, find the people they trust. So I'll start doing some work and we'll see where it lands, and then everybody can contribute. And one more thing, Igor, by the way, I'm from Suma originally. My dad, my younger brother, they still live there. So if I don't know whom exactly they know from local authorities, but now that I'm thinking, I actually do, like, I'm 38, so my friends are around that age. So some of them are like, like local government actually as well. So we can reconnect after the call. If you tell me exactly who you try to reach, I'm sure if I don't know somebody personally, I know somebody who knows, the 6 degrees of separation kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, great.
We'll
Sounds
probably
great. Thank you.
pull it together. Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
All right,
And
sounds
then,
good. So, go ahead.
Tracy, last time you mentioned you were looking for mobility devices. Is that still a need as well, or no?
Yes, I'm always looking for mobility devices for all of my shipments. So yeah, everyone seems to need those, a lot of, especially in these war-torn countries.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
So
and other priorities are solar lights and tarps, mosquito nets, buckets, and baby and adult diapers.
awesome.
We're always never have enough of those.
All right. Thank you for that mention. All right. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you so much. I'm so glad also we were able to cover like start to finish of lifting hands. That's amazing to have you all here and be able to hear from all three perspectives as well. It is just really boggling the mind whenever you see all that your little team has accomplished. It's really incredible. And to still show up and be there. So thank you. Before we go, does anybody have any other needs, announcements, anything else to jump in and say? I don't want to cut anybody off.
Christy, I just wanted to say thank you so much because I'm a fairly new guy on the block. Thank you so much for leading this since 2022. And even though, the project, the participation rate was maybe going down sometimes, thank you for persevering. And it's just amazing to be a part of the discussion today. And you see new faces, and we have these great ideas bouncing back and forth. And everybody, thank you very much for finding time and joining and vocalizing things. And I have a feeling that going forward, the Leveraging Logistics for Ukraine 2.0 will become a very useful platform for people to do more good. So thank you all.
It's been really cool to see our community come together and see what everybody's been able to do. So thank you. And thank you again for everybody being here today. And I will send out the recording, and thank you for everybody who's put your contact information in chat. If you have anything else to send out to everyone, then you can also always message Ukraine at vectorgl.com, and that'll make its way to our team as well. But thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate all the great work you're doing. Have an amazing day. Keep it up. Take a breath, and then get back to the good work.
Thank you all. See you next
Thanks,
time.
everyone.
Bye
It was
now,
nice
everyone.
meeting you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.